We want to welcome you again to the Wednesday night Bible class for the Stonecrest Church of Christ. It is a plum-picking pleasure that is presented to us each Wednesday evening as we are presented with the opportunity to come into your homes, your businesses, your cars, wherever you are as you view our program on the Wednesday night. Thank you so very much for taking the time to tune in to our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and our website. Whatever platform you are viewing this study on, thank you so very much. It would encourage us greatly if you would simply like the program. That creates some kind of algorithms for Facebook to be able to even to help us to share the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Even if you choose to share the link on your Facebook page so all of your friends can have an opportunity to study with us from the Word of God. We've come to the ninth plague of God's judgment on the nation of Egypt. We began it last Wednesday night with a message entitled, When God Turned the Lights Out. We read the scripture for you. We made some comments on those scriptures. We want to read the scriptures again. And this time we want to go a little deeper, not only into the scripture, but most importantly, if you're really going to understand this plague, you have to understand something about the historical culture and background of the leading god that the Egyptians worship in their pantheon of gods and goddesses. Now, we've told you that each plague was a judgment on one of their gods. Exodus chapter 12 and verse number 12. The reason God states that he sends the plagues on Egypt is so that they could know that he is the Lord. It's a term that means Jehovah. It is a term that means God Almighty. What God is saying is, I know that you believe in these gods. I know that you believe in these deities. I know that you believe that these gods are doing certain things both in your nation and in your life. But 8 times already, I have demonstrated in a targeted judgment upon one of your gods. But I want you to hear me carefully tonight, because the one that God is about to bring judgment on is the leading God in their pantheon of gods. And then I'm going to take the time to explain to you how you interpret these gods and these goddesses, watch this, by the images that Egypt used to picture and to portray them. Up to this point, I've told you about the God, but I've not told you, I've not explained to you why the gods are imaged and pictured the way that they are. Tonight, I will take the time to explain to you the why of it. Let's read the text again at Exodus 10, beginning at verse number 21. Then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, a darkness to be felt. So Moses stretched out his hand toward heaven, and there was pitch darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. Now let's stop right there for some commentary. God says to Moses, again, Moses, I want Pharaoh to see the direction from whence the judgment is coming. Moses, you are my representative. Moses, you're my mediator. But I want Pharaoh to know, to understand, it's not you, it's me. So stretch out your hand toward heaven so he can see, watch this, he can see, he will understand it's not you, it's me. The directions are coming from the sky. Oh, you may have missed it, but it'll be clear for you in just a moment. The directions, the judgment is coming from the heavens. It is coming from the sky. And he says, the sky that's light now, I'm going to reverse what I did at creation. I'm going to cause, listen to my term, de-creation. See, at creation, there was nothing but darkness. Genesis 1, 1 and 2 says, and darkness covered the face of the deep. You had nothing, watch this, but a misty, watery deep. And darkness covered the face of the deep. And it had no form. And watch this, and it was void. So in other words, all you had here was just darkness, if you will, over water. And it was without form. In other words, no structure to it. And then God did something. God said, and let there be light. And there was light. And then God separated the darkness from the light. Watch what occurs here. Here, God reverses the order. Now, I might ought to suggest to you that when the Bible says that it was without form and void, it uses a Hebrew term to describe something that has no structure, it has no shape, it has no, best we can do in English, it has no form. So there was no order. So creation begins with no order. And then God speaks and he takes, watch this, his order and creates order. Here in Exodus, they had light, which means they had order. That there is now structure to this planet called Earth. And what God does is he reverses it. He takes the light and he turns it into darkness in the middle of the day. Now, if you are not careful, you will assume that this is just some abnormal weather phenomenon, perhaps even a solar eclipse. Now, we've all experienced solar eclipses when in the middle of the day, watch this, for a minute or two, it gets dark and then it turns light again. If you are not careful, you will attribute this to some kind of weather phenomenon, except it lasts for 3 whole days. See, if there's anybody in Egypt, when all of a sudden it goes dark, we'll just assume, okay, let's just wait a few moments. Something is happening uh, uh, in the weather out there. Something is happening in nature out there. Something is happening in the solar atmosphere out there. Maybe we are experiencing a temporary eclipse. I'm sure they didn't have that word in their vocabulary at the time. But listen, they had lived in Egypt long enough. The world had been there long enough, had been here long enough that perhaps they've just, their scientists got together and said to Pharaoh, listen, man, listen, this stuff is going past in a moment of minutes, not even hours, because it can't be dark that long. You better listen to me. It can be dark. Uh, 12, maybe 15 hours, depending on where you live in the world. But when it start going days without light, now that's cause for concern. I remember when I was flying from uh, Los Angeles to Africa, uh, and at the time I was flying, there was an embargo on the United States towards South Africa, and that's where I was headed. And so we could not fly directly from Miami to South Africa because the United States had this embargo going on with the South African regime that was practicing apartheid at that day and had jailed Nelson Mandela for more than 27 years. Now, that was about to end, but it was still in place when I was flying on my missionary journey over there. And from LA, we couldn't fly directly into South Africa via South African Airlines. We had to take another airline because of the embargo. So we took another airline, flying from Miami to South Africa was something like 9-hour flight. But we couldn't take that direct flight. So I lived in Los Angeles at the time. Dr. Curl and I left Los Angeles, and we flew to right next to Germany and right next to Russia, the Netherlands. And I was real uneasy when it's 7 o'clock in the morning. About 7 a.m., you expect to see daylight. Well, at 7 o'clock, it was no daylight. And then 8 o'clock, no daylight. 9 o'clock, no daylight. 10 o'clock In the morning, no daylight. And then around 11 o'clock, we began to see the breaking of light in the new day. That was nerving. It was unnerving to me because my time clock and my body says it's about 7 o'clock. It's time to see some light outside. But in that part of the world, you didn't see daylight until about 11 o'clock. And then night started falling about 10 o'clock at night. Well, that's going to mess my body clock up. All right. Can you imagine what occurred in Egypt for 3 days? There is no light. In fact, the text says it wasn't just dark, it was pitch dark. And the word for pitch is a term that we get tar from. Well, if it's already dark and now it's pitch dark, how do you add blackness to the darkness? Well, scientists tell us that there's a place out there in our solar system called a black hole. The darkness is so thick and dense that it actually consumes light. Now, folk, when it gets so dark that light can't expose the darkness, now that's dark. But the text says here that for 3 days, they experienced the blackness of darkness. There's a term in the book of Revelation that talks about, it describes hell. Interestingly, it describes hell as, number one, outer darkness. And number two, it describes hell as the blackness of darkness. That's almost contradiction in terms, because we generally think of hell as a place of fire and brimstone, and fire illuminates. But see, that's the way we think of fire, and that's the way we think of hell. That's not how the Bible pictures it. The Bible pictures Gehenna hell as the blackness of darkness. Well, how in the world can it be darkness and yet be? Well, trust me when I tell you, you don't want to go there to see. You just need to take God's word for it. Now, so for 3 days, we have what the text calls pitch darkness. It is a darkness that is so dense. It is a darkness that is so thick. And some of your translations will call it thick darkness. It is so dark. It is so, watch this, dense that one can feel it. Friends, when it gets to the point where you can reach out here and feel darkness, that's dark. The text says in verse 23, they did not see one another, nor did anyone rise from his place for 3 days. Now stop. Now, think that one through. Now, I will concede to the notion that Moses could have very well been using a language convention that we call in our language hyperbole. Hyperbole is truth that has been exaggerated in order to make the point. If I said to you, I'm so hungry, I can eat a horse, now that's a pretty big animal. That animal weighs a couple 1,000 pounds. Now, Last time I was at the doctor, I was somewhere between 225 and 227. Now, I can't eat 1,000 pounds. I can't eat my body weight. No place to put it. Well, by saying I'm so hungry I can eat a horse, I don't literally mean that. What I mean is I'm hungry. Now we understand that kind of convention in our language. Uh, the text says here that for 3 days, and here's the point. This is what Moses is saying, that the nation became immobilized and the nation became paralyzed. It's what happens during a hurricane. It's what happens during a tornado. It's what happens during a power failure. This past weekend, here in the Atlanta area, we did not have in-person worship last Sunday because our area was immobilized because of the ice and the snow. And so it didn't mean we couldn't move. It didn't mean we couldn't drive. It didn't mean that we couldn't go to the hospital because, again, we have emergency vehicles. Even in the midst of the ice, uh, uh, you know, the fire department, the police department were all out on the streets making calls and doing their duty. But for most of us in the greater Atlanta area, we were immobilized. We were paralyzed. We couldn't go anywhere. In fact, the authorities asked us that if we did not have to be on the road, stay at home. Well, something similar is going on here at Exodus 10 and verse 23. When it says, they did not see one another, that's probably true because of the thick darkness. But nobody arose from their place for 3 days. Well, now, if you're in your house, uh, you would be familiar enough with your house. You had probably, like me and like us, have memorized our house where we can move, but we moved at a very slow pace. I remember when our lights went off during the power failure last year. Uh, in the daytime, it was dark, but there was light outside so we could see. But at night, when there is no light outside, or limited light outside, and no light in the house except for nothing because everything is out. Well, I know where my staircase is in relationship to my bedroom. Uh, and so I know where my kitchen is in relationship to the stairs and to the different doors in my house. So I can kind of feel my way around. Well, that's what's going on here. But the preaching point is simply this. As a nation, people were immobilized. They couldn't go anywhere. They couldn't travel anywhere because they're having to deal with a darkness that was thick. But the B part of that verse says, I want you to watch this. There was light in Goshen where the children of Israel live. Isn't that interesting? How could God do that? How could God partition the sky like that? Here is the sky. And on one side of the sky, God calls it to be darkness. In the same sky, he allowed there to be light where his people lived. So here is God with the same plague, sending judgment on one side and mercy on the other side. So in Goshen, uh, the land represented, as you see, uh, graphically portrayed on the screen, light in the darkness. And that's a metaphor for the people of God. That's a metaphor for us. Our world has been darkened by sin. And Jesus tells those of us who are his disciples that you are the light of the world. Well, why is Jesus saying that? Because the world is in darkness. So don't criticize folk. Don't judge people when they don't see the Bible like you see the Bible, because you have to remember they're in the darkness. Light should be arguing with darkness. God has turned on the light in your soul. God has turned on the light in your spirit. You share the light. Listen to what I just said. You share the light. You don't force the light. Let your light so shine that men may see your good works and glorify the Father which art in heaven. So Goshen represent what you and I ought to represent, and that is God's light in the midst of a world living in darkness. So what you have here, as you see demonstrated on the screen, is divine separation. You see God separating the light from the darkness, just like he did in the book of Genesis, where things were dark, God spoke and light appeared, and then God separated light from dark. Here you had light. God told Moses, stretch your hand toward me, I'll speak to nature. Nature will hear my voice. And when God spoke, God separated darkness in Egypt from the light in Goshen, where his people live. Exodus 10:24 says, then Pharaoh called Moses and said, go serve the Lord. Now, there's tension in this text, because if you take literally what we just read, that, okay, it's dark. We don't know where Moses is. Is he still in the vicinity? Is he over in Goshen, where the Israelites are? And so Pharaoh called Moses and said, go serve the Lord. Well, if you take that literally, and since everybody is darkness, and since everybody is immobilized, how do anybody move? Well, I think you best understand this as when the period of darkness is over, Pharaoh then goes and summons Moses to the palace again. And now he tells him, listen, you go, all right, listen, you turn the lights out for 3 days. You can now go and serve the Lord. Your little ones also may go with you. Only let your flocks and your herds remain behind. I covered this last week when I suggested to you that what Pharaoh is doing is he's telling Moses, you can go but leave your resources in Egypt. And Moses is going to tell him, no. Verse 25, you must also let us have sacrifices and burnt offerings that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. Our livestock also must go with us. He says, not a hoof, not a foot. That's what a hoof is, shall be left behind. For we must take of them to serve the Lord our God And we do not know with what we must serve the Lord until we arrive there. In other words, we're going to go, we're going to take our kids, we're going to take our resources, because we don't know what all that the Lord will require of us until we get to where the Lord is taking us. So sorry, Pharaoh, we're not going to leave an eyelash here. We're not going to leave a foot here. We'll leave it, and we're taking all of our resources with us. Pharaoh, verse 27, cops an attitude. He hardens his heart, so God said, all right, since you've chosen that direction, I will harden you in that decision. So God hardens Pharaoh's heart. I will remind you again that Pharaoh's darkness didn't start in the sky, it started in his heart. And then he threatens Moses in verse 28 by saying to him, go away from me. He said, listen, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get up and get out of here. And he says, if I see your face again, I'm going to kill you dead. You are going to die. Moses looks at him and he says, Pharaoh, hey, you're right. The next time we meet in the same vicinity, somebody's going to die. But it ain't going to be me. And when you read over to Exodus, the latter part of Exodus 13 to Exodus 14, they meet up again at the Red Sea. Somebody dies. Pharaoh and his army drown in the Red Sea, drown in the water. Moses and his people are going to walk through the waters. So the water became the separating line. Now, with that review, let's ask ourselves, what is the purpose of the plague of darkness? Well, you need to be mindful that God has caused economic and security issues in Egypt, starting with the bloodying, the turning of the Nile River into blood. God has blooded their main source of water and security. Remember again that the Nile River was not only their main waterway, but it was also security for them. That they were able to secure themselves by controlling the waterway, much like the United States. One of the reasons that there has not been major wars in the United States is because it's hard to get to us. We are separated, so we are surrounded by two oceans, the Pacific Ocean in the west, the Atlantic Ocean in the east. You can't come to us on land. You come to us from the sky. If you try to sail over here, we'll see you coming. You can't swim over here. And so our security is the fact that we are surrounded by two major oceans in the world. And that has proved nice for us in the United States. Only major war we've had some scrimmages from, folks like Mexico and places like that, but those were, with the land and remember the Alamo and all of that history. But in terms of a major war, the United States has been freed. In fact, the biggest damage we've done is to ourselves with the Civil War. But God has affected their economic and their security concerns. And watch this. And with the first 3 or 4 of those plagues, they were just plagues of nuisance. Now, there were some economic concerns when you can't fish, and the Nile doesn't overflow and water your land. That's going to affect some economy, to be sure. But if you look at the first few plagues with the frogs and the gnats and the flies, that ain't killed nobody. They were nuisance, but they didn't kill nobody. But then when God started diseasing their livestock, that's economic devastation. When God sent boils and blisters, that's personal devastations. Then when God sent hail, that hurt their economy because it destroyed their crops. But now God is about to bring some darkness. Oh, you better listen to me now, friend. When God brings the darkness, oh yes, it's going to hurt the economy. Yeah, I mean, you shut down trade, you shut down everything for 3 days. That's going to affect your economy. But what is it that you have to sell? I mean, think about it. Your livestock are diseased, your crops have been destroyed, your Wall Street, your agriculture have all shut down. And on top of that, look what God is about to do. Oh my goodness. He is about to send a judgment of darkness. Now, why is God going to do that in the last 10 minutes that I have here? Well, God is going to challenge and expose Egypt's light theology. Woo! Darkness attacked Egypt's supreme deity. Oh, you need to hear me right through here. You need to hear me right through here. Remember, they had a god in the form of a frog. They had a goddess who controlled the Nile River. They had a god that controlled disease. They had a god that controlled flies and gnats and all that stuff. Oh, but come here. The number one God, the number one deity in the Egyptian pantheon was a god by the name of Re. Let me slow my roll. He was the sun god. Oh, he was the God that they believed controlled the sun. Now, friends, if you don't have the sun, you have disorder. If you don't have the sun, you don't have life. If you don't have the sun, you don't have light. Darkness in the Bible is a metaphor for disorder. Not only was there disorder, there was disorientation. Say what? Watch it. If it's so dark that you can feel the darkness, if it's so dark that you can't go anywhere, if it's so dark that you can't move, you're paralyzed for 3 days, that's going to cause disorientation. Have you been to an eye doctor? They check your eyes, they do that exam, and then they put this stuff in your eyes, and then they give you these little plastic sunglasses to put over your eyes. Why do you think they do that? Well, first of all, so the doctor, the ophthalmologist, the optometrist can look into your eyes to see what disease you have going on there. Uh, but then they give you these dark shades to put on because when you go outside and you get exposed to the light, you could go blind. But what do you think happens if you hadn't seen anything for 3 days? So you can be in a cave for so long that once you come out of the cave, the light will blind you. Here, they've been blinded for 3 days. It's dark. And the darkness is going to cause disorientation. Why do you think when you were rearing your children, they were most, oh, you got it, they were most afraid of the darkness? Darkness causes fear. So darkness attacks Egypt's supreme deity by the name of Re. Oh, I'm about to help somebody. I'm about to help somebody. I'm about to help somebody. Look at the next graphic. Oh my goodness. This is what we have to understand. In Egypt, pictures weren't decoration. They were declarations. Ah, okay. All right. Marcus, leave it on the screen for a second. I need to repeat it. And then I need you to think through it with me. I'm trying to describe for you, I'm trying to picture for you their supreme deity by the name of Re. In Egypt, pictures weren't decoration, they were declarations. This is what I'm trying to say to you. Look at how they pictured Re as a god. Oh my goodness. Oh, huh. Watch this. When you look at the icons, when you look at the graphics, I mean, I want you to think of the icon for Apple. Can you see it? Yeah, it's an apple. Okay. Can you see the golden arches, the icon for McDonald's? Yeah, the golden arches. There's a reason those companies picture and brand their business and their corporations the way that they do. Well, one of my favorites is, and my kids know this, and my wife know this. One of my favorites, whenever we're traveling, I want to find out where the nearest Bucky's is. Uh, this is my buddy, but Bucky uh, is my buddy. Uh, this beaver, whenever we're traveling, uh, I'm going to find out what Bucky's is because I'm going to stop at Bucky's. And when I stop at Bucky's, I'm gonna get uh, that uh, that special sandwich, that chopped beef sandwich, and I'm gonna get me some red soda water, and I'm gonna get me some peanuts, put in the red soda water, and I'm gonna get me some skins. One of my elders, Gary Barnes, whenever he goes down to South Georgia, he always bring me back some of these fried skins. He doesn't get them at Bucky's, but I don't know where he gets them. But I sure appreciate the brother for doing that for me. Now I want you to watch this. We icon and we brand this business as a beaver. I'm gonna look it up for one of these days and why they chose it to be the beaver, but he's the beaver. Now I want you to watch this. In Egypt, pictures weren't just decoration; they declared something. Look how they icon, look how they pictured, look how they image this God. Oh my goodness. Egypt just didn't worship with words. They worship with walls. Ooh, it's Bible, boy. Egypt didn't just worship with words. They worship with walls. If you wanted to understand their worship, look at the pictures on the wall. Because pictures told the story without words. Remember, I just said that in Egypt's pictures weren't decorations, they were declarations. When you go into somebody's home, look at the pictures on the walls. when you go into somebody's office, look at the pictures on the walls, on the desk, on the credentials. Just look at the pictures. And the pictures will tell you what's important in that office. In fact, look at the pictures on my credential here. I got a picture of my wedding with my bride of my wife of 53. In March is going to be 54 years. I have our wedding pictures right here. I have pictures of my son's graduation over here. If I turn the camera, you can see my two boys graduating from high school in cap and gown. You can see my son here who graduates from college. You can see my son here who's getting married. You see, pictures tell you what's important to the person. Look at the pictures in your church building. See who's on the walls. See who's in the hallway. It tells you the story of that church. Come to ours. See whose picture on the walls. See whose pictures up and down the hallways. It tells you the story of that particular congregation. In Egypt, okay, let me give you a graphic that you can more identify with. How many times have you heard the statement that a picture is worth 1,000 words? How many times? Hey, look at the pictures that I have on the screen from the top left of the lady with her hands folded. You don't have to put a word up there. The picture tells the story. Look at the one over to the right with the man in a white coat and the person lying in a bed. I don't have to put words, emergency room up there. The picture tells the story. Look at the family heading toward the cross, heading toward worship, heading toward uh, uh, the light. You don't have to caption that because the picture is worth 1,000 words. Let me show you this one, and I'll pick this up on next Wednesday night. Look at that picture. I mean, I'll explain it next week. Look at that picture. I don't mean to make fun of the president. It just happened to be in the news. I'll explain it to you next week. But look at that picture. See, the picture tells the story, and you don't need words. Next Wednesday night, ooh, this thing's about to get good. Ooh, watch this. Look how they pictured the number one god in the Egyptian pantheon. His name is Re. He's the sun god. But look how they picture him. A falcon, watch this, a bird head on a man's body. Got a falcon head, got a hawk head on a man's body. And then on top of it, you have what they call the uraeus, the cobra snake. And then on top of that, you have an image of the sun. I'll explain all this to you next week, but I want to leave you with this notion. They pictured their God as the one who brings light, who controls light. And come here. And God cut out the light. So if he controls light, God let him go on vacation for 3 whole days while they were hollering, screaming, Ray, where are you? And I'm sure somebody said, Ray is in the dark. He can't see either. So God has said, if he's the one who controls your light, and you can't have a world without light, and he's the one that you believe control it, and I just shut it down, it must mean that I'm God all by myself. self. And since he is, that's where our trust, loyalty, and allegiance need to go. And until next Wednesday night, may the Lord of the harvest bless you. May he bless you real good.